Good morning, everybody. It's time for yet another edition, episode 215 of the 359 podcast. And boy, howdy, do we have a question for you today. My name is BBG, and in the house, we have Roger Cheng and Alfred Ng. Guys, what are we talking about today?
We're going to be talking about the NES Classic and how you soon won't be able to get one. But today, there is a shot if you're at Best Buy, theoretically, and willing to punch people, elbow people out of the way.
Take your shot today.
That's right. So we've been talking about the NES Classic. We'll be talking about our colleague Scott Stein's story on what he would like to see in the SNES Classic, the rumored update for the later this year, and lastly we'll talk a little bit about the March for Science event this past Saturday, held across cities all over the world.
Honestly, if they don't make an SNES Classic, that would just be really stupid of Nintendo.
I know, it's like
it's just
they're just leaving money on the
it's
table.
just like
there.
Here's a license to print money.
Yep.
Here we go.
Hopefully they make more.
Just skip the N6. Just go straight to the GameCube Classic. I want remastered
No.
GameCube games.
I want the SNES Classic. That would be the main console I'd want.
Nobody liked the GameCube. I was really surprised to find out how disliked the GameCube was with but I thought it had incredible games. Maybe I'm wrong here, but
You're probably in that generation where you grew up with it, though.
well, I grew up with the N64.
Okay.
And I still thought the GameCube was better. Which is I'm gonna get a lot of hate comments for
I
this.
actually, there are no games on the GameCube that I really remember or think about. I was a little bit older at that. I think I was in college at that point.
There's Super Smash Brothers. There's Mario Kart Double Dash. There's Wind Waker, Legend of Zelda.
Save it for the post show.
Okay.
Right, let's get started. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comment section. Brian will pick out the best. We will get to them in 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
It's Mario Sunshine.
Shut up. 3, 2.
Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Alfred Ng.
The NES Classic is here, but not for much longer. Best Buy tweeted that limited quantities would be available today. Alfred, you feeling the need to take a field trip to Best Buy?
Absolutely not. I made my own NES Classic with a Raspberry Pi the day they announced it.
So there you go.
But I can see a lot of people that will be rushing down to Best Buy to grab one. It's in such high
Could you
demand.
imagine riots breaking out for an NES Classic?
Not riots. I don't think it's like Black Friday level. If it were free, maybe. But
you can't get them soon. I mean, this is it. Nintendo's already discontinuing these things, so
that's the thing.
Limited supply.
Yeah, if you want to make a serious investment, honestly, to buy this for $60 and then they're gonna be out of sale very soon.
Right.
And then they're going for $300 to $500 on eBay. If anything, that's the way to go.
Yeah. I mean, what is to buy them on eBay?
No, to buy and sell them on eBay. That's the only reason why I would rush to a Best Buy right now.
But it's for the love of the game.
Yeah.
No.
If you really love them, you would have a original NES.
I have one somewhere.
Yeah.
But it probably doesn't work.
Yeah.
I've blown all the cartridges and shoved it in the wrong way.
And that's the thing.
One too many times.
Original NESs are super cheap on eBay too. It's the games that are hard to get.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so next up on a related note, our colleague Scott Stein wrote a story last week, basically looking at what he would like to see in an SNES Classic, that is the rumored next console that Nintendo is going to put out later this year. And frankly, if they don't do it, they're stupid.
Yes,
right?
It's pretty much a license to print money.
Yeah, this is it's got, like the Nintendo, tons of classic games. What game would you want to see on the SNES?
NBA Jam. That's the thing. With the NES Classic, most of it, was Nintendo branded games.
Yes.
And with the SNES, it's a little bit different because a lot of their classic games aren't straight from Nintendo.
True.
You take a look at a game like Chrono Trigger, or NBA Jam, Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time 4.
Yes.
All of these are classic SNES games, but none of them are
I would
from
say
Nintendo.
Chrono Trigger and actually. Street Fighter, obviously.
Yes.
Another Capcom game. And what was actually X-Men? I think it was X-Men.
X-Men versus Street Fighter?
No, X-Men Apocalypse, I think.
Oh, yeah. The
not the terrible
one?
movie, but the
Yeah.
side-scrolling game was kind of awesome. I spent a lot of time playing that. Would love to see it. Scott, though, talks a bit about not the games, but the features that he wants to see. And, a lot of them are they make a lot of sense, right? Make the controllers wireless. Those NES Classic controllers were insanely short. They made no sense.
I couldn't even wear them as a necklace.
Include 2 controllers in the box. I would pay extra for 2 controllers right in the box. Include the NES Mini inside. he talked about this idea of this Russian nesting doll strategy where you have like one system within another system.
Kind of like a backwards compatibility thing.
Yes, exactly. Keep using industry standard cables like the HDMI and USB. Let's see, cross-buy download codes for the Nintendo Switch. And lastly, make enough of them.
That should have been first. That should have been easily first. Like, we just talked about the limited supply of NES
Well, you know, I
Classic.
think you wanted to end on a high note.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear what viewers would want to see from the Super NES Classic. What games would you want to see? All right, lastly, really quickly, March for Science event was this Saturday. Folks around the world went to demonstrate, science, their love of science. Obviously, this year's event was a little bit more politically tinged with a lot of people thinking about Donald Trump. You actually ran into one of them.
Yeah, I passed by the one in Washington, D.C. I was like making a pit stop there, coming back from North Carolina. It's just interesting to me that like we actually have to protest this, like believe in facts. That's such a weird, like, this is the world that we live in now.
I mean, to be fair, they're not necessarily protesting.
Yes.
Like they're basically it's show support for science, right?
Which is still weird to me. Like, science is just something you should believe in. It just doesn't make any sense. There's facts and studies, and
in this day and age, you can't take that for granted.
2017.
All right. For more of these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Alfred Ng.
Thanks for listening.
Oh, we have some good stuff going on in the chat.
All right.
A suggestion from the Noid: screw the NES, just build a Raspberry Pi.
True.
Yeah, see? That's exactly what
in
I
fact,
did.
CNET has a guide for how to build a NES out of a Raspberry Pi. Dan Graziano actually wrote that up a little while ago.
That was in 2014, before the
all
NES
right.
Classic was even announced. And it's
Right.
actually even easier now to build one, because before you actually had to go in and like put all these like lines.
Yep.
But now it's literally like you just put it on like a micro SD card and then you put it in your Raspberry Pi.
Oh, really?
It's
Wow.
It's so fun.
You have one?
Yes, I brought it on my like vacation trip just because I'm like, this is what we're
Awesome.
doing.
Nice.
Matthew in the chat is on fire. People at Nintendo need to be slapped. Does Nintendo care nothing about milking us for money? Full disclosure: the GameCube was the first console I ever bought. I like the GameCube.
Yes, it's a great console, and it's
I liked how you could carry it around.
it's
this little
cubicle.
handle.
Lunchbox.
It's a lunchbox, yeah. I don't know.
I still have a GameCube.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Working?
I
Yeah.
I use a Wii. I sold my GameCube to get money because it's backwards compatible, but it does not look as beautiful as the GameCube does.
Truth.
Huh?
Well, you were listing games earlier.
Yes.
As we were dragging out the intro.
Yes.
What games?
Well, I listed Super Smash Bros. Melee first because that's like
course.
easily the best game. And to get an HD remake of that would be incredible, or
Right.
just because like everyone's like still playing and like doing all these like big tournaments like on a game that came out like more like 10 years ago.
Oh, wait, are
And
they
is
still playing that in tournaments?
Yes, yeah,
Really?
and
It's still the most
huge.
popular one over Brawl, over all the rest.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
Wow.
the thing is because it's like all these other like their sequels that just never matched up to it like competitively.
They were
Uh,
as good, but they look at Melee as the one that really set the standard.
Yeah,
Like,
it's-
the original Smash Bros was awesome.
Yep.
And then they perfected the formula with Melee.
It's like how people still play like Street Fighter Third Strike, even though like Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, like all came out.
Right,
already.
right.
True.
I mean, it moved to Street Fighter 4 for a little bit. Now people are moving back from Street Fighter 5 because it's like doesn't have that same like competitive edge that the other ones had. But for a while, like Street Fighter Third Strike was like the most like competitive one. Of
I'll be
all.
honest, I like after Street Fighter 2, after the many versions of Street Fighter 2, I kind of tuned out of that series.
Turbo Edition, Champion Edition, Alpha
Hyper
Edition,
Edition, yeah.
Hyper Fighter.
Game and TV throwing a little shade in the chat. I would pretend. What would I do for a Nintendo Classic? I would pretend the Nintendo Switch is powerful enough to handle AAA games. Oh,
Ooh, wow.
Ouch! More
It
than
kind
a
of
little
is,
shade.
I
though.
mean, Breath of the Wild is a AAA game.
It is.
Yeah.
Right? Granted, I mean, it
It's-
doesn't.
We're just off to a slow start. We got to give it some time.
All right.
We
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to give it
yeah.
some time. Here we go. B. Josh, not a thing. I don't know why everyone is freaking out about it. I'd rather buy the real NES console for way less.
Well, we were talking about
This is
that,
exactly
yeah.
what I said on the podcast. It-
But I mean, look, can you really want to go through the time to buy one of these things and then dig for all the games, or it's kind of nice to have it. It's all about
Yeah,
presentation. I mean, that's why it's done so well, right? It's a cute little thing. It's like
yeah.
it's a nice novelty to have, and it's got a bunch of your favorite games bundled in, so it's really easy to just sort of have this one little thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Nostalgia bomb.
yeah, exactly.
Yep,
Like most of
totally.
the hype around it is like, oh, I remember that, and then it's just I feel like it's like parents that want to show
And
their
it's
kids.
tiny. I think
Yeah.
you can't like underestimate that factor. Like it's a cute little console that are enough like to get hardcore fans.
I just feel like
nostalgic about
I feel like
it.
a lot of the buyers are just like parents that want to show their kids like what they grew up playing, but also don't want to show them like all the troubles that came with it. Because like imagine like showing your kid like a NES and it's like, and then when it didn't work, you had to just blow into it for a really long time, and sometimes it still didn't.
Well,
work.
we didn't just blow on it. Like our system, we actually had to put like weights to push it down further so it would like read with the
Exactly,
system. There's
yeah.
a whole messy, complicated.
The drop down
process.
door was all a publicity stunt. They're trying to make an interactive toy,
Right.
Yeah.
more than anything else.
Right.
But it was it was a flawed feature.
Yeah, but also back to Scott's point though, like I think the NES Classic could have been improved in so many ways, which I hope they do with the Super.
Yeah,
Nintendo
I really hope they take the lessons learned
Classic.
from that. Like people would pay up for that, for those features, wireless controllers, having 2 on the box, right? Just these little things kind of make all the difference. Like the NES Classic was a smart idea, but just execution wise, they just kind of like
Go figure.
I mean,
missed out.
When you were talking about like what would you do for an NES Classic though, like did you want one or?
Yeah, I mean, now that I know there's an SNES Classic coming, I
Mhm.
kind of don't want one as much. But like when it first came out, I was like, that's
Yeah,
pretty sweet.
I
Like,
didn't know how
feel-
limited the supplies were when they first announced it. I
Right.
wanted one, but like it was more like I kept sending links to it to my girlfriend. I was like, hey, Christmas is coming up. Check this out, by the way.
Well, no, my wife was actually thinking about getting me one, but at the last minute, I kind of went like knowing that she'd have to like run around
Yeah,
finding one like would be such a pain in the ass
Yeah.
that I just told her like
that's actually
don't worry
when,
about it.
when I built my like
Nintendo
Raspberry Pi one because it was during Christmas break.
Right. And then there's the acknowledgement that I don't actually ever play games anymore. So
Yeah.
or watch TV.
I mean, I don't play games. I didn't play games anymore until I built that thing. 'Cause it's like so easy
Ah.
and convenient. Just like sit
So
down.
would you just plug it into your TV like in the hotel?
Yeah, it's like an
Like,
HDMI. It's like an HDMI cable.
And then you bought 2 wireless like third party controllers?
No, you can get like USB Super Nintendo controllers.
Oh, you can?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Oh,
and then you can assign the keys to like
got it.
play whatever.
They're not officially made by Nintendo, of course, but
Which
Got it.
I have
that's what they should do.
I actually have a Nintendo 64 USB cable that I was using for ROMs
Mhm.
Oh.
for a while.
Oh.
Hey, back to the chat. Gaming TV, just lighten it up. If Nintendo wanted to, they could easily patch in the eShop, make us buy NES digitally for $5. That's a good point.
Well, they don't they
I
do
mean, that's
that
what they
now?
do.
Like
Yeah,
Nintendo
you can do
Switch
that on
can
your-
sell old libraries of games.
You can do that on your 3DS.
but they could have just made that a single package and like bypass the hardware debacle that they went through.
well, that's the thing though, is that's like the nostalgia factor. of it
right.
all.
That's
And,
the
like,
sell point. I got the box again.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like
Like, it's not about the-
not
they-
everyone's buying the Switch, right?
Yeah,
Like, but
true.
There's like I feel like there's a different audience
They-
buying the classic versus the Switch.
Yeah, they've been selling like old NES and Super Nintendo like
Yep.
N64 games for a really long time. The issue is that like it doesn't have the nostalgia factor of hey, look, it's like the tiny little NES again, and I got the little controller in
You
my
cannot
hands. Like,
discount the value of that, like the
Yeah,
physical
like,
console.
I was playing like Sonic on my 3DS, and I don't know, it doesn't feel the same as like a controller.
But not everybody relies on that hardware experience.
Yeah.
Not everyone grew up with the little rectangle
Yeah.
controller. I mean, he's pointing out gaming TV again. If it was a digital purchase, he would actually want the NES Classic. Not only would it support Nintendo, it would keep people from pirating it. But that's it. Nintendo,
Right.
make it easy for us.
Yeah.
Give us a
Right,
reason
right.
to give you some money.
yeah,
Stop giving us reasons to
yeah,
take
and
away
even
money.
with the NES Classic, they made it hard, right? Like they just didn't make enough of it. They made it this chore to go out and buy to the point where like I told my wife like, don't worry about it.
yeah,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure on Amazon, like the moment it was available for pre-order, it was like
It's, like,
gone.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was the same thing with the Nintendo Switch. They have problems with that with like
Yep.
supply also.
Matthew says, I think NES Classic is a marketing disaster for toying with our feelings.
I don't think it's a marketing disaster for that. I don't know. Like
It depends
people
on
are-
how
we're-
it turns out,
We're
right?
talking about it.
They're a villain for toying with our feelings.
Yeah, but like that's Nintendo's
evil
like.
genius twisting their mustache.
If anything, I just think it's terrible that they like discontinued it. Like, why create something like so like wanted and there's like, oh, see you later.
That is the big question mark. Is why like they've got a hit on their hands. Why not double down? Why are you pulling back on this? I don't know. The conspiracy theories always range from like this was just a marketing stunt. They were actually losing money on these
No,
things.
they weren't though. They weren't. And then the other thing too is like we interviewed.
Well,
Nintendo,
how do you know that they weren't? They say that they were
that
making money.
no, they were making money off of that.
They were.
Yeah,
But how do you know?
I thought they mentioned it in like a bunch of interviews, didn't they?
Oh,
I mean, like we interviewed Reggie like
right.
a few months ago, and he was talking about how they were gonna make more Nintendo Classics, and then
I mean, they did
Yeah.
technically, and then
Yeah.
they did for a short second, and then
Yeah.
they stopped.
yeah,
I feel like something went bad behind the scenes there. They just had to pull the ripcord. I don't think they planned
Yes.
it like that.
I mean,
That's my
I
personal
know one of these
speculation.
days we're gonna get like the inside story in the NES Classic. It'll be it'll be a tale.
behind the console.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's talk about some of the games on the wish list. Gaming TV says NBA Jam, a degenerate game.
That's a great game. I mean, I have it on my iPhone.
He's
So,
heating up.
yep.
He's on fire.
I lost by 1 point last week. It's very disappointing.
I'm sorry.
Did you play the HD remake they made?
No,
they
no,
put
no,
out
no.
of that?
I played it on the Raspberry Pi.
Right. But have you tried the
I actually
remake?
have.
Is that the
it
one
now.
where like they've got Obama and like, they've got
Yeah.
basically like everybody
Yeah.
from
It was a little too kitschy. I mean, it was kind of fun, but
yeah.
I'm still trying to find the hack. Like some guy like modded it so that like there was Obama, and then Harambe was also a player.
Yeah, no, that's the one. I think that's the one he's
No,
talking
no, no,
about, right?
that's
was a
a
hack.
mod.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
mod.
okay.
They did like an HD remake for like PlayStation 4 and like Xbox. Like,
Okay.
Live market.
Gaming TV says Mega Man X. Ever heard of it?
Yes.
Great
Of course.
game.
Incredible game.
Not very fun for multiplayer, but
Too bad that
I-
series took a nosedive, but bring back the OG.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, all the Nintendo. Well, we spoke a lot about the third party titles, but the first party ones were great, like Nintendo, Super Mario World,
Yoshi
I mean,
Island,
Yoshi Island,
yep.
Zelda. I mean, it's Link to the Past, right?
Yeah,
Didn't you-
I wasn't really a fan of Zelda games until I got 3D.
Ah.
So, I mean, I played Minish Cap a lot on like Game Boy Advance.
hmm
there you go.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the GameCube was Metroid Prime. Easily. I still go back and play
Yeah.
that. That's the one I always can go back to.
Huh.
Bridging off, going into more Super Nintendo wishlist, Illusion of Gaia, Super
Ah.
Metroid, Final Fantasy 3, Chrono Trigger, Final Fight 3, Turtles in
Nice.
Time, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many of those are from Nintendo? How many of the wish lists from that people have been saying are games from Nintendo? That's the thing where
Yeah.
Super Metroid and
Yeah.
yeah, that's about it actually.
But that's the issue is that like a lot of like the SNES classics are like not from Nintendo.
Yeah,
Whereas
but I mean,
the NES
well, you look
classics
at the
are.
But they
NES
become associative to it.
But when you
at
look
the
at the
same time.
NES Classic, the game breakdown, there are still a good
No,
portion
yeah,
of those
yeah.
games are third party.
Yeah, they were able to get them,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
like the thing is that like a majority of them were still like
True.
Nintendo's
You have to
game.
wonder if
But
that
even
affects
then,
the
like-
cost if they have to license those games.
Yeah,
Capcom's and all kinds of weird territories.
Yeah.
Back when Square Enix was still SquareSoft, you
Mhm.
almost like synonymous with Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like I'm willing to bet that like Chrono Trigger is not going to be on the Super Nintendo Classic if it comes out.
So
It'll be harder.
disappointing.
It'll be
But
harder
that's
to
the
license.
thing. Yeah. Take
Yeah.
a look at like the NES Classic games and just like how like they're like short, like they're like games for your iPhone where they're like really quick. You can just like play it casually with
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
friend
yeah.
or two. Like they're not gonna put Chrono Trigger on that. That's like a whole like thing. It's like a whole storyline and like all these like
I don't know.
They should
That's-
do
I mean,
two different versions. The SNES,
It's not like
long-
it- it's
long
not like-
form.
SNES Classic Casual, SNES
Hardcore.
Classic Elite.
Ooh, I like that.
Well, that, like NBA Jam makes the most sense because it's like a short thing you pick up, you play with your friend,
Totally.
whatever.
Right,
but
right.
like Chrono Trigger is like a whole storyline, and it's like you can play it over and over again.
Can you
too.
buy Chrono Trigger on iOS or Android?
Yes, you can actually. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
it's like $10.
Yep.
I love this. Vin Draken says, I would tattoo CNET's logo for an NES or SNES Classic and film the progress.
Wow.
We,
Do we have
cannot-
one in the
office?
We cannot condone that.
No.
We have an NES
We
Classic.
do
in
have
the
an
office.
NES Classic.
We're not
Yep.
condoning that.
Where is he getting it tattooed?
We're not condoning that.
I'm with Brian on this one. Sorry, man.
Uh,
I love the dedication though.
So to bring it full circle and wrap it up, Matthew wants us to speculate as to if we have any clue why Nintendo did such a limited run. We just started kind of
Right.
brushing on this a few minutes ago, but why would they? I think they either ran out of supplies or just got somewhere in the hole and just, like I said, had to pull the ripcord. I think it was not planned. I don't think they decided like, we're going to just dangle this carrot.
I don't think it could be in the hole though. It's in such high demand. How's that even possible?
I think maybe some of the hardware that they were
Yeah.
using. I can't
Hardware and
imagine.
distribution. I think actually the more expensive factor would be licensing costs.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Paying those third party publishers to actually carry the games. Maybe
I feel like they
maybe
weren't.
those guys saw they saw the demand and they wanted to re-up. I don't know how
Yeah.
it works, like the contract negotiations, but
Nintendo,
I imagine the cost has to be a factor here because if it's in demand like it is now, to pull away from this, I mean there has to be some sort of reason, and it has to come down to money.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people in the chat discussing about how they're resistant to outside help and so on and so forth
Right.
from like the third-party licensing.
Right.
So they've always been on this weird little island, just like how
Yeah.
they're resistant to putting anything on iOS and mobile, and that's just Nintendo for you,
Yep.
literally and figuratively on the island.
Yep.
One more thing to speculate on: do we think they're going to continue with this trend? I would love to see an N64 Classic.
Yeah.
I would like to see other manufacturers jump on this train. A PS1 Classic,
Mhm.
so to speak.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Sega's kind of already done it, but it was through third party. You can get this like Genesis rehash out there in a similar form.
But were you able to
Not Saturn.
for the Genesis rehash, like you still had to buy the games for it, right? Or was it like preloaded with games?
They had one of each. They did have one that had preloaded games, and they had
okay.
one that was open to you could actually put your
Yeah.
own ROMs on an SD card.
Got
And I
it.
think they had
Okay.
one. They had a bunch under the hood,
Yeah.
like 30 on board kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and then
Okay.
Sega actually has like sold the rights to that to like a lot of third party like manufacturers. Like I was in like a Dwayne Reed and I saw like one of those like all like,
Yeah,
like 30.
I've got one. It's
Yeah.
it's a At Games, I think is the manufacturer,
Yeah.
and it's a little portable system. It looks nothing like Sega's ever made in its past, but I threw an SD card on there with like 60 games, and I'm good to go.
Yeah,
Wow, nice.
Sega does that. Like they sold the rights. To
I know.
that,
I would
but-
absolutely love to see like a whole sort of retro, nostalgia return of all these systems. But
I mean, they
don't know,
never
we'll
really
see.
went away.
Yeah.
It's that one of those things where the nostalgia holds tighter than the new, as we keep seeing over and over
Yeah.
again. Now, granted, not to say there aren't people who are religiously standing in line for that new system.
Yep.
But we all can always speak fondly about, like, I've got my Dreamcast and my GameCube alive. Those are my two
Yeah.
favorites. My biggest regret, getting rid of my Genesis.
I just
Yeah.
feel like they should just remake those games for like newer consoles, like an HD remake for Super Smash Brothers.
I don't
would
even
be
care about the
incredible.
HD. Just
Yeah.
keep putting everything. Stop being picky. Stop being choosy. Put it all back up
but
on the
for me,
arcade in
I'm-
the store.
I'm saying like I'm not like really like buying as a little like hardware thing, whereas like we need to make a specific console just for this. Like just make like what Pokemon does when they like remake like from Red to Fire Red.
Yeah,
or,
right.
Like,
Oh yeah.
from like Pokemon Gold to like Heart Gold, where it's like a much better game and they improved on all the flaws from like the original game, but it's still got like that like nostalgia factor to it. Just make it a better game and make it on something that I already own and can play it on.
But how much does it matter to you to maintain that feel? Like when getting an NES Classic, you
Yeah.
got that controller, and everything just feels right. Or
There
are
is
you
something to be
open to
said
a
about the
different
idea of
platform?
that bundle of games.
Because you can
Yeah.
just keep getting those like classic collection discs you can buy at the store for like $15. You know, I've got the Sonic Mega Collection
Yeah.
on my GameCube,
Right.
going back and back and back, dating the hell out of myself. But yeah, I mean, those are okay.
Yeah.
They run fine, but is it the
I
same?
mean, yeah, if you want that like to be taken back in time, like go ahead. But I don't know. I'm just not really into the whole like, oh, it needs to be precisely all these things for like the right like thing. I played Chrono Trigger on my phone. Like it's obviously not the same, but like it's
I feel
for
like
me.
Chrono
It's more
Trigger
about,
would translate to the phone fairly
yeah,
well.
but
Yeah.
it's for me. It's more about like the experience of the gameplay than oh, I'm not playing it on a like
this
SNES
D-pad isn't
controller.
sticky enough. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel right. to me.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good place to
All
land.
right. Yep. Let's wrap things up
We
there.
could ramble about games all day.
I know. All right. If you liked anything you saw or heard here, check us out on CNET. Our podcast is also available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, FeedBurner, and Google Play Music. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Thanks, y'all. See
See
ya.
ya.